ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. The deadline has come and gone. The Iraqis are living on what President Bush calls borrowed time. It is no longer whether the war will start, but when. They know that in Baghdad as well as in Washington, there is a rumor every hour. Our first report is from Saudi Arabia. Here's ABC's Bill Rediker.
On the battleship Wisconsin, coordinated sea-air operations with British fighter jets, the firing of the ship's 5-inch guns, the testing of its anti-missile system, preparations for war.
Ready for war, sir. Ready for war. That's what this ship came over here to do.
General quarters, all hands man your battle stations.
As the deadline approached, the commander announced the Wisconsin had been placed on DEFCON 2 alert, Defensive Condition 2, one notch short of war.
We should consider that hostilities are imminent. What does that mean? That means that we need to get ready to fight.
Ready also means that the Wisconsin has begun launching its miniature unmanned planes that can transmit remote television pictures of Iraqi ships and other targets. The Army's 82nd Airborne also practiced today, storming and securing buildings. The firing of assault weapons and explosion of grenades increase the realism of what many here believe is the last step before battle.
Of course, you know, everybody's nervous. It's just like playing a big game. Until the first blow, you won't know what's going to happen until the first blow.
At the largest airbase in Saudi Arabia today, some F-15 air-to-air combat planes were on Zulu alert, ready to take off, fully armed in 15 minutes.
Anybody tell you they're a little scared in my position right now? And if they tell you they're not scared, they're probably lying to you.
On the day the deadline came and went, American forces were exercising with a new intensity and a new seriousness. Before the Marines today moved closer to the border, they were given chemical warfare antidotes.
This is how to use the injector. Instructions are also on the injector. You'll be getting a class later.
Tonight, considerably increased air activity here in Saudi Arabia. During the past half hour, we have counted about 20 fighter jet aircraft takeoffs. Normally, there is some air activity at night, but it's normally transport and a few air missions. This does mark an increase in air activity. Peter?
Bill, I hear that from elsewhere in Saudi Arabia as well. What does the military high command say about it?
They're not saying anything, and they say that anything further on it will come out of either Washington or Riyadh, but we are hearing nothing in the eastern province of an official nature.
Captain Mike Miller there says anybody who isn't scared is a fool. Is everybody scared?
I think there's a certain amount of tension in the air and a certain amount of anxiety, both among the troops and the civilian population. There's a definite feeling that something is up or about to be up.
Okay, thank you very much. Bill Rediker, who's in Saudi Arabia. By the way, senior Pentagon officials confirmed to ABC's Bob Zelnick that there has been an increase in night activity in the Gulf from both bases on land and also from ships, but they declined to characterize it beyond that. And as we said at the beginning of the broadcast, they know very much in Baghdad that something is going on. ABC's Gary Shepard is on the line now from Baghdad, where it is a little after 2:30 in the morning. Is Baghdad a dead town at the moment, Barry? I mean, Gary, in terms of perfectly silent?
Peter, it is absolutely quiet here. No activity whatsoever. Looking out from the hotel where most of the foreign journalists are kept, the lights of the city are still on. You can see right to the horizon, street lights, etc. But absolutely nothing happening here. It is dead quiet.
Tell us what the weather is like at the moment, Gary.
The weather is clear. You can see some stars in the sky, and there's no rain, nothing like that. So it is easy to see into the upper reaches of the sky from the ground.
Okay, Gary, thank you very much. We are thinking about you as well. In Baghdad this morning, a sign of the times, taxi drivers were asking more than $200 to drive to the Turkish border, $185 more than last week, and the border has now been closed by the Iraqis. And a little while before the broadcast tonight, ABC's Gary Shepard reported that Baghdad's 4 million citizens are very aware of the danger. There is very little they can do about it, and here's the report he filed in.
The streets here were busy this morning. People went to work, stores were open, the city appeared normal. At Baghdad University, they began final exams today. But most students were well aware the deadline had just passed and war could soon begin.
So be it, so be it. We are ready for that.
We want peace and we don't want any war.
I don't like anything bad to happen to any of your soldiers or our soldiers, because the war will be a devastating one to both sides.
As that reality sunk in, the airport was jammed with foreigners anxious to leave. Both scheduled flights to Amman, Jordan were sold out.
We're going to dump out of that piece by Gary Shepard at the moment and go back to him live on the telephone, for he has an up-to-date report. Gary.
Peter, I am looking directly west from our hotel now, and throughout the entire sky there are flashes of light. It appears to be some sort of anti-aircraft fire, a couple of flashes on the horizon now. Something is definitely underway here. Something is going on. The whole sky lit up with these flashes continually.
Is it far in the distance, Gary?
Occurring, and now we can see an obvious tracers in the sky. Planes now coming toward this hotel, and flashes. The sound of flak and flares. Obviously, an attack is underway of some sort. It appears that there is tracer fire coming up from the ground, and an incredible panorama of flashes continuing as I speak.
How close is it to the city where you are, Gary?
We now see an entire stream of red tracer fire. And now sirens, air raid sirens, are beginning to sound over Baghdad. The lights of the city itself continue to burn on the ground. Street lights, house lights. And as this occurs, the flashes continue throughout the sky. There's obviously an air raid underway right now. The air raid sirens continuing. We see more tracer fire going up. Huge flashes in the sky, throughout the sky.
Gary?
Yes, Peter?
You said that you could see aircraft coming towards you. Can you confirm that?
We can see the lights in a formation coming toward us. It's difficult to see much more than that, or to make any more of a judgment than to just say lights in a formation.
I don't want to...
Now the numbers of flashes have subsided quite a bit. Some of the other ABC News people that are here with us say they don't think we see any planes or no confirmed hits, but an awful lot of activity in the sky. I am looking out to the west. It appears that there's some sort of light still coming toward the hotel. Now the frequency of the flashes and the tracers in the sky is subsiding considerably. At one point, the entire sky itself was completely lit up with twinkling lights moving and tracer fire going up from the ground.
Gary,
take some of that underway.
Gary, take a breather
not
for
to the extent that it was occurring perhaps a couple of minutes ago.
Gary.
Now things have quieted down again. The sirens have subsided. We hear a little bit of fire, some sort of ground fire. And now things are quieting down considerably. Peter?
Gary, just take a breather for just a second. If we look at that map of Baghdad again, I'll try to locate you four people. The hotel, the Al Rashid Hotel, from which Gary is broadcasting, is there on the western side of the Tigris River. And when Gary says that the aircraft, or the perceived aircraft, may have been coming in the direction of the hotel, there is particular concern among Western journalists because, take a look at that map, the Ministry of Information, the Al Rashid Hotel, the headquarters of the Ba'ath Party, and the new presidential palace, or at least the May one in Baghdad, are all on the western side of the Tigris River there. Saddam Hussein, in building this new part of Baghdad may have made his government particularly vulnerable. If you look up in the upper part of the picture there, the Ministry of Defense is on the other side of the radio, but also Iraqi radio and television and the Foreign Ministry and another presidential compound are all within that western sort of hub there on the western side of the Tigris and very exposed. Gary, please interrupt us at any time you want to say anything, but let us go on now and see if there are any clues to how the Iraqi military may be behaving tonight. All that tracer fire into the sky is a clear indication of how much tension there is there tonight. It is interesting, in the Bill Redeker piece, they said that at one point they had set off decoys which had, or unmanned aircraft rather, that had the capacity. Let's go back to Gary Shepard.
Sorts of anti-aircraft fire now rising up from the ground, going up into the sky in all directions. The tracer is very obvious from here. You can hear the firing as well. Explosions in the distance, and the echoes of them. The tracer's continuing now. The sky lighting up considerably from what it was like just a few minutes ago. And this is now continuing here. Huge red tracers emerging from the horizon and going up into the night sky, which is quite clear, so we can see these tracers as they go up. Obvious anti-aircraft fire from the ground being fired at whatever targets the Iraqis are aiming at. Once again, it has now quieted down a little bit, but this is likely to be going on. Now there's another burst of tracers directly west of here, going up into the very black and clear nighttime sky. One burst of tracers after another. Huge, the sounds of thunderous explosions way off in the distance.
Gary, pause for just a second while I ask Bob Zelnick, who's standing by at the Pentagon, whether or not there's any confirmation in Washington, Bob, that an attack has actually begun.
We have not at this point gotten confirmation of that, Peter. As we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, there was hard confirmation of the great increase in U.S. air activity, both carrier-based and ground-based.
And so try to interpret for us for just a second what, Gary Shepard, you think might be witnessing.
Well, I think it's been clear all along that this is the way the war would begin, with massive U.S. air attacks on Baghdad and other targets in Iraq. The immediate strategic purpose would be to take out Iraqi air defense systems, to hit command and control centers, to hit communications networks, to try to interfere with the flow of both goods and communications from Baghdad to the Iraqi army. This is a kind of activity which can go on for many days if it has in fact begun, and it is part of the overall U.S. strategic aim of establishing complete air superiority.
Bob, pause for just a second, because I want to go back to Gary. Gary, in your last few comments, Gary Shepard in Baghdad, again, you said you could hear very loud explosions. Again, do you have any sense as to whether those explosions are being caused by something coming from the air?
It is difficult to tell, Peter, but if you want, just crank up the volume a little bit, and I'm going to just stick the phone right near the window, and you can actually hear what we're hearing outside right now.
Okay. Gary? Well, until Gary puts his phone back to the ear again, there are some of the targets which the...
As you can tell, quite a few explosions echoing across the horizon tonight. Huge bursts of tracers still going up in most directions. Red tracer fire from the ground up into the sky. We cannot see any aircraft per se, but of course, if it's flying that high, very often you can't see aircraft from the ground. Peter?
Okay, Gary, please stay with us for just a second, as I know you will, while we try to gather ourselves together, and we'll go away and come back in just a moment. Well, as you can see, this is not a normal newscast because of the events that we believe to be taking place in Baghdad and perhaps elsewhere in Iraq tonight. So we're now going to break away from World News Tonight and do a special report for the entire network. I'm Peter Jennings. We'll be back in just a minute.
This is a special report from ABC News.
Time. I'm Peter Jennings in New York. We believe that something is going on in Iraq. We know something is going on in Iraq. We do not know what. Let me just very briefly bring you up to date on what we do know. Reporting from Saudi Arabia and Washington tonight confirms that there has been unusual American air activity in the area of the Persian Gulf. And ABC's Gary Shepard is currently on the line from the Al Rashid Hotel in the western sector of Baghdad. And Gary, bring us up to date very quickly on what you have been seeing over the last 5 or 6 minutes.
Peter, we have been watching an incredible display of anti-aircraft fire shooting up from the ground, looking west from the hotel. Huge tracers, red staccato-like fire going up. The sounds of thunderous explosions. Yet no apparent bombs falling on Baghdad. And I should point out that a great number of the lights in the city are still burning. Street lights have not been turned off. We can see lights as far as the eye can see along the horizon. And yet this anti-aircraft fire continues now. It must be a good 10 minutes since it began.
When, Gary?
It comes and goes. It subsides for a bit, and then it starts up again. There have been very, very pronounced thunderous sounds like explosions in the distance, and the tracer fire continues. There goes another burst right now off to the right, almost straight up from the ground, eventually burning itself out. And as far as the eye can see, the far right, way over to the far left, this tracer fire continues and the explosions continue to erupt. So it's difficult to decide exactly what it is, but obviously something is underway here.
Okay, Gary, stand by for just a second as we look at the map there. Let's please stay with the map because there are, of course, numerous targets in and around Baghdad, the capital. Very close, in fact, to where Gary Shepard was just broadcasting from. He is broadcasting from the Al Rashid Hotel, or phoning us, we should say, which is right there in a bend in the Tigris River, in the middle, really basically in the middle, if we could have a map of Baghdad, the city, of a considerably large complex which contains a number of targets which interest the United States. The presidential palace and command, communications headquarters there, the headquarters of the Ba'ath Party, President Assad, President Hussein's palace. And outside Baghdad there are a number of targets, airfields around Baghdad and also missile sites as well. Let's go to our Pentagon correspondent Bob Zelnick, who's standing by to see, Bob, if you can confirm what Gary Shepard is seeing.
Peter, at this point, we still have no Pentagon confirmation, although we have been told that some announcement will probably come not from here, but from the White House, rather than the Pentagon.
Okay, I wonder if ABC's Bill Rediker is still standing by in Saudi Arabia. He was with us a short while ago. Bill, there in Dhahran in Saudi Arabia, can you confirm any of this aircraft activity in the air?
Well, as we reported a little bit earlier this evening, we did notice quite a bit of increased fighter jet air activity out of this part of Saudi Arabia. We counted approximately 20 planes taking off in about a half-hour period of time. That was about an hour ago. About 2 hours ago, ABC radio reporter John Bascom reports in that at an Air Force base in the central part of this country, a squadron of fully armed F-15 fighter jets took off at approximately 12:50 a.m. local, that's our time, which is about 2 hours ago. They're members of the 4th Tactical Fighter Wing. As you recall, the F-15 is designed as an air-to-air combat plane, usually used to defend other planes in the region or to protect an airspace.
Stay with us for a second, Bill. Israeli radio is reporting now from Jerusalem also that Iraqi radio, or Baghdad radio, which is the official radio, has gone off the air in Baghdad. Now, it's about 10 minutes before 3 tomorrow morning in Baghdad, so the fact that the official radio is off the air may not mean a great deal. But Gary Shepard has said a short while ago from Baghdad that the city was looking quite normal, though very quiet at that point. Gary, were you able to listen to the radio up until a little while ago?
To tell you the truth, Peter, we did not have Baghdad radio on. They do normally broadcast, though, well into the evening. I might point out that just a few moments ago, a great number of the city lights that we had been seeing, ground lights, have now been turned out. There are some still shining on the horizon, whether they be traffic lights or what have you, but between the horizon and here, there is a great deal of blackness that you can now see as you look west from this Al Rashid Hotel. And still, tracer fire from the ground, anti-aircraft fire apparently, still rising up into the sky, and the sound of explosions coming and going.
Okay, let's go.
As we speak.
Let's go to the White House now, where ABC's Britt Hume is standing by with news, right, Britt?
Peter, the president just a few minutes ago summoned his press secretary, Marlin Fitzwater, into the Oval Office. Fitzwater bolted out of his own office, rushed past reporters to go in there. They were calling to him, what's going on? He said, I'll tell you as soon as I can. There has been an unmistakable sense here all day, Peter, that something was imminent. An announcement of that, presumably from Fitzwater at first, and I'm sure followed very soon thereafter by the president, is coming.
Okay, Britt, thanks very much. Let's go back to Bob Zelnick and see if we can get some handle on why these F-15s may have gone up in the air. Am I correct, Bob, that they may have gone up because they were worried about the Iraqis getting their Air Force off the ground and coming at U.S. targets?
Well, that's one reason, Peter, but many of these F-15s have been modified into the F-15 Eagle, which is a very, very good attack plane attacking targets on the ground, and it's particularly good with its HARM missiles at taking out Iraqi air defenses once they turn their radar on. So that could be one explanation. Other planes that I would think were involved were the stealth fighters and possibly the FB-111 bombers, the longer distance bombers, which are also based in the area.
As everybody in the country must know, this is one of those days on which there truly was a rumor every hour. Would there be an attack on this? The first day after the deadline for Saddam Hussein to withdraw his troops from Kuwait. And though we appear to be seeing, though we are certainly seeing, I shouldn't say appear to be seeing, all the signs of battle in Baghdad, as reported to us by Gary Shepard from the western side of the Tigris River in the center of the city, virtually, we are not able to confirm anything incoming from Americans. Gary, anything more to report at the moment?
Peter, everything has quieted down now. A short while ago, as I was saying, there was a great deal of tracer fire going up from the ground, bursts of red staccato-like nature. Now the sky is clear again. The sound of the anti-aircraft fire completely stopped. We have lost regular power here at the hotel. We're using emergency lights here in the ABC News office, and I am looking out and I can still see ground lights on the horizon, but most of the city lights now appear to have been turned off.
In just about 5 minutes, we're going to get a report from the Israeli Defense Forces, as the military is called in Israel. There has been enormous concern there today, of course, that if war begins, Saddam Hussein might live up to his threat and attack Israel first in a concerted effort to divide the coalition of 26 nations, which is presently lined up in the Gulf against him. But there is no sign in Israel whatsoever at the moment that there has been any attack or even any suggested attack against Israel today. The Israelis have gone out of their way to say to us on a number of occasions they'd have about 2 hours to monitor the Iraqi Scud missiles being put into position, because it takes about 2 hours to get a Scud up in order to make the long-range flight that it would be with a limited amount of explosive, or perhaps, sadly to say, worse, from Iraq, from the western portion of Iraq to Israel. But in a couple of minutes, the Israelis are going to have something to say. The Israelis monitor the region very, very carefully, and they're the ones who reported to us a short while ago that Iraqi official radio had gone off the air in the middle of the night. It is about 5 minutes to 3 in the morning. Bob Zelnick, at the Pentagon again, give us some sense, if this were to begin, either has begun or would begin, what kind of air raid warnings would the Iraqis have? Do you know?
Well, that would depend very much on how effectively the U.S. Aircraft and perhaps cruise missiles as well demolished their radar and demolished their air defense system. That's one of the key questions of the early stages of this war, Peter. Under normal circumstances, they would have warnings of several minutes from their radar and their early warning network. But, of course, if we're using stealth fighters and those fighters effectively overcome enemy radar, if we're using long-range missiles to put them out, if we're using cruise missiles to otherwise affect key communication systems, they could have very, very little warning.
Okay, just to confirm to people at the moment, we do not know precisely that an American attack has begun from the air on Iraq. We do know what Gary Shepard has been seeing in downtown Baghdad, what appears to be a reaction to something in the air. But there is so much tension in the Middle East at the moment now that the Iraqis may be responding to a diversion mounted by the U.S. military. They may be responding to nothing. One battery may have opened up, which put fear into the other one or anticipation into the other one. And they've all been spewing anti-aircraft defense up into the air. But Gary has been unable to see, from his reasonably good vantage point there in Baghdad, any incoming aircraft at all, though they thought very early on they would say so. Britt Hume, perhaps if you could at the White House bring us, while we wait for both perhaps the press secretary to come out or the Israelis to say something a moment, bring us up to date on how the president has spent the rest of his day.
Well, the president has been very close to his top national security advisors today. He met with Secretary of State Baker, for example, this morning.
Britt, I apologize.
And again at lunch.
Let me interrupt you again, because the Associated Press has just moved from central Saudi Arabia, which may well be the command headquarters. The following bulletin: war with Iraq began early Thursday as a squadron of U.S. fighter bombers took off from the largest U.S. airbase in central Saudi Arabia. That is the U.S. military making an official announcement in Saudi Arabia, according to the Associated Press, that the attack against Iraq has begun. So what Gary Shepard has been watching from his hotel in Baghdad has not been a mock exercise. Britt, back to you briefly.
Well, I was just going to add, Peter, that one of the things that happened today that was quite unusual was Press Secretary Fitzwater went out of his way during his daily briefing of reporters to read an open letter to journalists, and it was not the first such appeal he had made, which was to get out of Iraq at once. It was, in fact, the third such appeal he has made in the last week, and we were later told that he was prompted to do so by the president, who was alarmed, we're told, by the continuing sight of American journalists reporting from Baghdad on television news reports.
Okay, Britt, thanks. It's 3 o'clock in the morning in the Persian Gulf at the moment. Let's go back to Saudi Arabia, where ABC's Bill Redeker, probably more than anybody else, Bill, can give us some sense that if this is correct, and the military has officially announced, as the AP is saying, that the attack has begun, give us an overall sense of what you know to be happening, given the planning, I should say. Stand by for a sec, Bill. We don't have your audio for just a second. If we could open his microphone for a second. Try again, Bill, would you?
We have to be a little bit careful on that confirmation. I'm not sure that we have an official Air Force confirmation yet. All of this does quote an Air Force official in central Riyadh. The aircraft, incidentally, that we're talking about, we have pictures of that were shot about a week ago.